She looks you dead in the eyes, smirks, and says the one sentence that flips your entire brain upside down. Why are you acting like that? My ex never did this. In one moment, your confidence fractures. Your heartbeat jumps, your mind freezes, and the craziest part? She didn't even mean the words. She was testing something else entirely. And this is why even the most powerful, disciplined, high-value men on the planet fail the first and most brutal psychological test a woman can ever give them. A test she might not even know she's giving. A test that decides whether she trusts you or destroys you. Today, we're going inside the psychology that almost nobody understands. By the end of this video, you'll see women and yourself in a way you can never unsee again. Let's start with a story. There's a guy, call him Ray, tall, confident, makes money. Looks like the kind of man who never gets shaken. Until one night, he gets hit with a sentence that melts every high-value guy at least once. But before that moment comes, you need to understand what a shit test actually is, because almost everybody gets this wrong. What a shit test really is. A shit test is not about disrespect. It's not about ego. It's not about superiority. It's about safety. Not emotional safety. Instinctual safety. Biological safety. A primitive part of a woman's brain is trying to answer a question silently. If everything collapses, can this man hold the ground? Most men try to prove themselves. But here's the twist. The moment you try to prove yourself, you fail the test. Because the test wasn't checking your answers. It was checking your stability. This is where Ray messed up. And this is where almost every high-value guy collapses without even noticing. Let's go back. Ray's moment of impact date night. Good vibes, everything is smooth. Then she hits him with something small. Why did it take you so long to reply earlier? Ray feels the tension, feels the spike in his chest. And he does what every high-value man who believes he's high-value does. He explains, then over-explains, then apologizes, then tries to fix something that wasn't broken. She didn't need the explanation. She needed to see whether he stayed grounded when challenged. But Ray cracked. He failed the test. Not because he's weak, but because he misunderstood the assignment. Here's where the story gets wild. Because after that night, something started changing in her behavior. Less affection, more distance, more coldness, more emotional unpredictability. Ray thought she was losing interest, but what she was really losing was trust. Let's zoom deeper. The evolution psychology twist. For thousands of years, women had one job more important than anything else: choose the right partner. Because choosing wrong wasn't inconvenient, it was deadly. So nature built a hidden examination system. Invisible quizzes, micro-challenges, behavioral pokes to check whether your internal state is actually as strong as your external behavior. Not to hurt you, to read you. But here's the paradox. The stronger a man's life looks on the outside, the more nature tries to test his inside. That's why CEOs get tested. Athletes get tested. Confident men get tested. Because when a man appears powerful, the brain wants to verify the reality behind the appearance. Think of a bridge. The heavier the load it promises to hold, the more engineers test its foundation. Same psychology. Now, let's get to the part nobody talks about. The part that flips the entire male-female dynamic upside down. The reason: high-value men fail. Most high-value men collapse in a shit test because they're used to winning in every other area of life. Business, they dominate. Gym, they push. Leadership, they command. But relational psychology isn't conquered through force. You don't win a shit test the way you win a negotiation or a competition. You win it by not reacting, not scrambling, not shifting. The more elite a man becomes, the more he expects the world to respond to his competence. But a shit test isn't a room you walk into and prove yourself inside. A shit test is a mirror. It reflects you, your emotions, your fears, your insecurities, your ability to stay present. This is the part Ray never understood. It's the part powerful men hate hearing, but it's also the part that frees them. Let me ask you something. If a woman said to you, "You're kind of boring today," what happens in your chest? Do you laugh? Do you panic? Do you explain? Do you shut down? Your reaction tells the truth more loudly than your words ever could. This is the whole game. But we're just getting warmed up. Let's go deeper. The root of the test. Biology doesn't care about your confidence. It cares about your capacity. Capacity to stay centered. Capacity to lead yourself. Capacity to handle discomfort without crumbling. Shit tests are not about drama. They're about calibration. They're asking, is this man emotionally self-governed? Is he stable enough to handle me at my worst? Can he protect me from himself? And here's the uncomfortable truth. A woman will sometimes test you right after you had a great day. Why? Because when everything feels easy, she wants to see whether your ease is real or just a temporary high. This triggers high-value men more than anyone else because they feel like, I worked for this life. Why am I being questioned? Answer: because the question is not about your life. It's about your internal center. This is the part that pulls men into confusion. Let's break it down. The 3 levels of shit tests. Level 1, surface tension statements like, "You're so moody today. Why do you talk like that? I didn't expect you to wear this." These are light pokes, checking your reactions. Level 2, emotional challenge. Comments like, "I could have gone out with someone else tonight. My ex used to do that better. You don't care about me anyway." Now the test is deeper, checking your emotional balance. Level 3, nuclear test. This doesn't happen often, but when it does, it reveals everything. Silent treatment, pullback, passive-aggressive behavior, sudden mood shifts. This is not meant to break you. It's meant to reveal you. And if you fail this one, you feel the consequences for months. But passing it, that unlocks something rare. Respect, softness, trust, a level of emotional openness you cannot force any other way. Let's go back to Ray, because the craziest part is coming. The night everything changed. 4th, never match her chaos. She's testing whether your world stays stable inside hers. If she becomes loud, you become quieter. If she becomes cold, you become steady. This creates polarity. Polarity creates attraction. Attraction creates trust. Trust kills tests. But here's the twist no one expects. If she stops testing you completely, it's almost always a bad sign. Because tests aren't conflict. They're connection checks. And when she stops checking, it means she no longer cares about the connection. Let's hit something surprising. When to walk away. Not every shit test should be passed. Some should be ignored. Some should end the relationship. If she tests from insecurity, that's normal. If she tests from trauma, that's workable. But if she tests from cruelty, if she tests with the intention to damage, if she tests to gain power rather than safety, you walk, not to prove a point, but to protect your center. Because the moment you stay with someone who tests to break you instead of learn you, you start losing the very qualities that make you powerful. High-value men don't fail only because they react. They fail because they tolerate situations they shouldn't. But let's bring this full circle. Because the story of Ray didn't end with disaster. It ended with something unexpected. Ray's final lesson. Months later, Ray wasn't the same man. He trained his mind, slowed his emotions, learned to breathe through conflict. He stopped explaining, stopped chasing, stopped proving himself. And one night, with a new woman, he faced the same test that once destroyed him. Maybe you just don't care enough. He didn't panic, didn't argue, didn't justify. He just looked at her and said, "You're safe. Stop overthinking. Come here." She melted. Because the test wasn't about the words. It was about the reaction. Ray didn't win because he was alpha. He won because he was steady. And steadiness is the rarest masculine trait on earth. Now here's the final twist. The truth. Most men hate hearing. You cannot memorize your way through a shit test. You cannot fake confidence through a shit test. You cannot outsmart a shit test. You can only become the man who naturally passes them without trying. A man whose internal world stays calm, even when the external world becomes chaos. And when you reach that level, women don't test you to challenge you. They test you to trust you. That's the secret. That's the game behind the game. Would you pass this kind of test or fail it the way Ray did? Tell me in the comments and subscribe before you forget, because the next video goes even deeper into the psychology nobody else dares to explain.